for 2 days now, we've been covering the effort to have Wayne County votes in Michigan not count. And there was that back and forth that Trump was so excited about, where it looked like they weren't gonna certify the results for that one county. It led to this amazing tweet that came out just like 18 minutes before they did certify it from Trump saying, wow, Michigan just refused to certify the election results. Having courage is a beautiful thing. The USA stands proud as we try to take the vote away from hundreds of thousands of black people who don't support me. But why? Why did that whole back and forth happen? Where originally they were going to, and then they decided they weren't going to, and then they ended up doing it, but now they want to take back their vote afterward. Well, it turns out those two Republican individuals, William Hartman and Monica Palmer, as well as the Democrats on that county board, they were not the only individuals weighing in on this process. After all, the world was watching, the country was watching, but it turns out most importantly, the president of the United States was watching and he was calling. A person familiar with the matter said Trump reached out to the canvassers, Monica Palmer and William Hartman, on Tuesday evening after the revised vote to express gratitude for their support. Then on Wednesday, Palmer and Hartman signed affidavits saying they believe the county vote should not be certified. So this we had as of very early this morning, the idea that the president had personally called to either, depending on your perspective, put pressure on or support for them attempting to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of individuals. And it was confirmed by one of those individuals. Monica Palmer said, I did receive a call from President Trump late Tuesday evening after the meeting. He was checking in to make sure I was safe after hearing the threats and doxing that had occurred. Well, Dan, that sounds like Trump. When his political future is on the line, he's not gonna worry about himself. He's just worried about the safety of the little people.
That's the guy we know, John. That's Donald Trump, and it's why all the little people voted in overwhelming numbers to keep him in office, except they didn't, except like they, in all the cases where like some of the little fraud they found or instances of fraud have just all been found to be fake or Trump cronies who are trying to brush up things that aren't there. But it's, again, it's one of those cases where the behavior of Trump is very unsurprising at this point. We know exactly how he's going to behave and act. He's going to behave and act in a way that is very self-centered and out to get whatever sort of angle he can to win and victory and look strong, even though throughout the whole process, he's wriggling around like a fish out of water, just like completely weak. And so this side kind of like calling in from the dawn, all puns intended, at the top, trying to say, okay, can you do me one last little favor? It'll be great, it'll be wonderful, fantastic. It's kind of shameless. It's sad that again, we get to see this kind of politics out in the open and see this what it is, which is a blatant attempt at voter suppression to affect people of color. And I am now moving on towards the step, which I don't think a lot of Democrats are talking about right now, of where's the accountability going to come? At what point are we going to say, oh, we don't want to cause divisions in the country by looking at the past record of 4 years and seeing what norms were broken and what laws were broken and holding any of these people accountable. I'm not saying they go to jail, but like something to at least acknowledge that you can't just openly get away with this. Or you're just gonna say, create the precedent where if you get 4 years of utter destruction and chaos in the country where you bring the entire United States to its brink, you get a pass because we don't want it to get worse. We have a chance to set that precedent right now, and we're kind of looking and gawking at what's going on. But at what point are we going to actually make a decision on whether or not we signal to people in the future that this is allowable, that this is something the United States as a country with so-called laws that conservatives love to parrot and defend and say are just and good in the way we should run society? Do those laws actually work to defend the country, or do they work to just defend capital?
I think you're 100% right. I worry that we already know what Biden thinks about this, according to reporting from earlier this week. I think you're 100% right. The only tweak I would give to what you said from my point of view is I would say continue the precedent rather than establish, because of course, Barack Obama was looking forward, not looking back. And I mean, if you look back over the past 3 or 4 decades of American politics, how has ignoring the criminality of Republican presidencies worked for us? We had 8 years of Reagan. Reagan broke the law, started wars, gave away trillions of dollars, all of that. Then we had a Democrat for a bit. George H.W. was this sort of like a weird aberration. Then we had a Democrat for a while. And then we got George W. Bush, which was like Dan was 5, so he doesn't remember those years, but it was madness. And a lot of us who sort of became politically awakened and politically active and radicalized during that time were very worried that that was going to be the end of democracy. But thankfully, like Obama suddenly came in and we had 8 years of Obama, but he was looking forward, he wasn't looking back. And then we had Donald Trump, and look what he has accomplished in just 4 years. Who is looking to 4 or 8 years in the future? Maybe we have Biden, maybe Kamala gets a term or something like that, and thinks the next Republican will be rational. Who's thinking that? But we have this precedent of we're looking forward, we're not looking back. And I would say we're not looking back at the dagger pressed against our back, unfortunately. So I definitely agree with you. And I would just say, in terms of this, I don't know if what Donald Trump did in calling these individuals is strictly speaking illegal. I do know that even if it is illegal, he's the president and there are no consequences for breaking the law, at least now, if not in the future. But when you look at this, unprecedented attempts to interfere with the election. No, if you're a right winger watching this, seriously, you won't engage in an intellectually honest fashion with my question, but you do have to think about it. You can't help the reaction you're gonna have. If you found out that Biden had been calling up the board that certifies votes and pressuring them to go one way or the other, would you be okay with that? If it had happened, do you think that your man Tucker Carlson would be like, no, that's just fair game. You get to do that. The candidates get to call up and put pressure on them to invalidate entire cities. Maybe Dallas won't count. You know what? A lot of Republicans in the Dallas area, Dallas County just doesn't count, okay? Biden was pressuring that. It's just fair game. You get to do that if you want. Nobody thinks that. Nobody
John, if we may, we now, the one great thing about, I guess, us now having the benefit of time is that we can go back and look at how Fox News and a lot of those figures reacted to the Obama election. Remember Acorn? Because I do, I barely remember Acorn. It was this whole deal where like the Democrats were allegedly stocking votes together and doing these shady things with taxpayer money. And we all listened to Project Veritas and the left decided to eat some of its own. And some of the down level losses of not having that kind of organizational support during the Obama administration. I think we're seeing now the consequences of that in some of the barriers to movement building that the left is facing even right now. So it was a really great thing that was done then. We saw Fox News' reaction then. Now, of course, they're falling in line to Donald Trump because they are, as they have been for the past 5 years now, placing their bets on the future as it's led by this bloviating wet sack of COVID waiting to happen. This is the bet they've made. So we just watch them as they happen, and we can't call out the hypocrisy at this point because the hypocrisy doesn't work. We'll get to that in a moment. But we can at least learn for the future.
Yeah, no, that's a great point and a great image, by the way. Somebody's pointing out in the Twitch that Dallas went for Biden this year. Yeah, okay, I apologize, Dallas. You're good people. I love Texas. You know what I mean? A Republican city, if one exists. Louisville, I don't know. Nashville, I don't know.
Insert that video. I don't know if you saw it during the election, but Joe Rogan was watching election coverage with a friend of the show, Kyle Kulinski. And when Texas was called red for Trump, he let out a woo and a fist pump and everything, but then held back because he realized he was on camera. No, Texas is awesome though. We're bringing our liberal values to Texas, such as Joe Rogan.
Exactly. Okay, yes. So this thing by Trump, hope this isn't the last we hear of this. You combine that with Lindsey Graham calling up the Georgia Secretary of State, which is actually, that is a crime. You can't pressure a Secretary of State to commit election fraud. So we have identified 2 horrible instances of trying to manipulate this election. It's just not the ones that the Trump team are arguing about in court. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.